This is Gloria Williams Sander, and I'm a curator at the Norton Simon Museum. In this episode in our series, examining drawings from the collection, I invite you to take a close look with me at Paul Klee's Remembrance Sheet of a Conception, created in 1918. This Swiss-born German artist is recognized as one of the major figures of 20th century European modernism, yet his artistic production evades easy classification. To sift through Paul Klee's work, chronologically or at random, is to be continually astonished by his variety of subject and approach. Though he explored abstraction throughout his career, he never rejected representation outright, as did Wassily Kandinsky or Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, his colleagues from the Bauhaus. In his desire to create a unique visual language, two practices provided lifelong inspiration: music and drawing. As a gifted violinist, he understood music's ability to stir emotion independent of concrete references. Klee embraced drawing as a medium with the same expressive potential. Though traditionally valued as the most direct means of transcribing onto a surface what one sees and knows, drawing offered Klee a way to picture worlds of his own imagining. Such is the vision one encounters in Remembrance Sheet of a Conception. The composition is defined by triangles and quadrilateral forms which surround emergent motifs clustered in the center. Klee's palette includes primary and secondary, saturated and muted colors, and his nuanced use of complementary contrasts, such as the blue-oranges and the yellow-purples, add a boost of luminosity. There is no illusionistic perspective in the sense of the foreground receding to the background. The pictorial space is ambiguous, compressed, defined, if at all, by shapes that seem to overlap in places only to remain insistently flat. A tilted female head, flanked by a green arrow and an embryo-like form, offer the strongest points of reference to the visible world. Freely drawn orbs, hemispheres, and vestiges of geometric and organic figuration are distilled into abstractions. Fine lines, thin as a hair, suggest a contour here or a decorative design there. Klee's Remembrance encourages us to puzzle solve, to identify symbols, and ultimately to meditate on the associations these motifs arouse. The drawing, a combination of ink, watercolor, and gouache, was assembled using multiple layers of Fabriano paper, which is an absorbent support for watercolor. Occasionally, Klee took scissors to his own works, cutting them into two or more parts, which he either left unchanged or reworked further. In this instance, the smoky blue-brown portion below originally occupied the upper part of the sheet. Klee then cut and separated the central part of the watercolor and moved it upward on the page to overlap the horizontal pink and orange band above it. A similar approach is evident in another watercolor drawing in the collection, Aquarium Green Red, produced 3 years later. Before mounting it onto a cardboard backing, the artist cut the lower portion, rotated it 180 degrees, and glued it back, but left space between the separated sheets, thereby further dislocating any single point of view in his underwater world. Klee titled his works purposefully, presumably to orient the viewer and to bring his imagery into a familiar environment of thought and experience. Certainly, the curious ensemble of geometric and intuitive forms in Remembrance Sheet of a Conception gains context that would be difficult to decipher without a title. Indeed, the benign schematic head, the embryonic figure, and the energy of the green arrow flying into their approximate space suggests a narrative, a myth of conception or gestation, as if from a dream or memory. Klee's interest in such themes dovetails with period interest in psychology and the nature of memory, which attracted a broad audience at the turn of the century. Scientists theorized that memories were stored as if in an archive, waiting to be retrieved. Perhaps this composition, too, can be viewed as a collage of memory images, constructive rather than reproductive, abstracted rather than detailed. In this watercolor, drawing served Klee as a creative channel where imagination and memory combined in the making of his fantastic imagery.